You know, some people enjoy composing their own music, chord by chord, and others are happiest when they come across that one perfect song. Work is not a lot different than that. Whether you prefer building your own workflow or using a pre-made template, with Monday.com, you and the team can work in a way that's comfortable for everyone. Tap the banner to go to Monday.com and build your own amazing workflow, or find an awesome template. No judgment.
A science story, huh?
These NYU scientists,
I felt
right.
but
I was so
and I just thought, well,
I had figured it out.
It was that golden moment.
Because science was on my side.
Hi everyone, I'm Ben Lilly, and welcome to the Story Collider, where we bring you true personal stories about science. This week we're bringing you stories on the theme of working memory, from the way we remember the events that impact us in childhood to a family's attempt to reach someone whose memory is slipping away. Our first story this week is from Gerard Khalil. It was recorded in October 2016 at The Mint in Los Angeles, California.
My last name's Khalil because when my father immigrated to the States when he was young, they switched his middle and last name. So I am technically first-generation Khalil. I have no relatives with the last name. I am the first, and hopefully not the last. But I want to share a story today about how they met and kind of just the wonders of the world and how things kind of pan out. I wrote a 3-page paper, basically, so bear with me as we get through this. I'm just going to use it as references. So Charles Khalil, or Charles Risha as I've expressed to him, came from the country of Lebanon in a war-torn state when he was... he moved to the States when he was about 18 years old. He got really tired of living in, a country that's falling apart, and he wanted to make a name for himself by coming to America. So he moved to America. He learned 5 languages, took several classes, worked several jobs. He was a mechanic. He was a mechanic and a teacher's assistant. He was a janitor. He did anything and everything he could learn about American culture any single way. And eventually, he met my mom, Karen Reed, at a gas station one day. He was the manager of a mobile gas station. Actually, I think that gas station is actually on Pico and Westwood. So we're actually not that far away from it, ironically enough. And he was managing this gas station, and he saw this beautiful blonde woman come out, and she ran out of gas, and she had no money to her name, and he didn't care. He was instantly magnetized to her. He saw her and became infatuated with her, and back in the day, obviously, everyone smoked, so he was like, hey, got some cigarettes, got some money, let's go hang out. And so they went on a date, ironically enough, and everything kind of went hunky-dory from there. They got married after dating for 10 years, and they had 5 kids, and I am the youngest of 5 kids, so I'm the baby. My brother, I'll start in order, because that's how I was learned to do that. My sister Lila was always kind of like the calculated, smart one of the group that was always like scared to meet new people, but very judgmental. My brother was the aggressive jock named Jacques, who was 5'6", but like jumping in the face of the biggest quarterback, headbutt first into them. So that was kind of, abrasive guy. My sister Monica was kind of the crazy, rebellious one who, smoked weed and stayed out late and, never responded to her parents via a pager, was kind of rebellious. And then my sister Kelly was the socialite. She was the one that was like always going to Pop Warner and student council president and got good grades and was very controlling and educated and had to have things a specific way. And then there's me, the problem child. I was very quiet in the family. I didn't contribute much. I was a shy boy who didn't really like to do anything but play video games. Look how that turned out. I had a health problem. I was born with a spinal hemangioma, which was this benign tumor that was embedded into my spine. And back in the day, no one knew anything about this. This part of the story, while it seems science-y, isn't actually the science-y focus. It's just letting you know for context. when I was growing up, money was not really around. But my father grew into it because my mom's dream was to own a flower shop. And so his whole life he worked hard for her and he got her a flower shop. And then she wanted to have 5 kids, so they had 5 kids. And he wanted to make money and provide and really care for his family. And right around my 10th birthday, my parents stopped being parents. They just kind of were like, we did 4. The last one can kind of take care of himself. But more importantly, my mom started changing. I saw a change in her that was very different and very weird. To give you an idea, my father owns 3 mobile gas stations in southern Los Angeles, as well as owns a marketing company based around mobile oil and the convenience industry. So if you go to like a Chevron or a mobile gas station or a Circle K and you see all the nice, pretty back bar designs and stuff, my father is probably one of the people that brought that to the table. And so he, in the 90s, was thriving in his industry. He was making $1 million deals and working his butt off. And my mom was taking care of all 5 of us kids doing, there's 5 of us, right? So that means we all have to learn languages. We all have to play 18 different instruments. We have to, be on student council and cotillion and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and all that stuff. And so she was a super person. She was a super mom, just doing all these incredible things. And around my 10th birthday, she just was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. And so my dad said, well, what can we do, Karen? What can we do to, what can I do next? You wanted the flower shop, I got you the flower shop. You wanted the kids, I got you the kids. You wanted the money, we got the money. Like, what more can I do for you? I want to make sure that, this family is a family. And of course my mom was like, no, that's not what I mean. It's just I can't be a super mom all the time. I need to do something for me and for our family in a way that doesn't feel like I'm just doing a 9-to-5. And so my mom got this idea. She wanted to make her kids a star. Well, one of them at least, a star. That's what was her whole thing, is she wanted to make someone famous. And so she knew nothing about the music industry. She knew nothing about fame or fortune in that regard. She didn't know anything, but all she knew was that she wanted to do this thing, and she was very driven. And my mom was a very driven person. The things that she would do. So she got what she wanted. My father financed her company, and this company was awful. Just waste of money. No direction, had no contacts. No one involved was able to kind of help her shape what she was doing. And she was kind of fledgling, and she didn't know what to do. And so then she met a man named Bill Head. Now, Bill Head was a country singer, a retired musician from Kansas City who'd moved out to California to try and get his hands into young talent and produce them and kind of live off of their royalties. And he had an idea of the music industry. So he kind of came in. He was like a 6'4", skinny, just long, greasy hair, hat, glasses, very like, you don't trust this guy. He just, it's just kind of creepy. And so he and my mom started this company together. And when I say started this company together, I mean he asked for money and she gave him everything he asked for. And lo and behold, this man known as Bill Head was actually not Bill Head. He was a con man from Tennessee who had just convinced my mom to give him over $500,000 in hopes to create this company. But at that point, my mom was so excited and so happy to see what she was building that the money that she was spending didn't really matter. She was happy, and she started changing even more and more and more as the days went on. And eventually, she found herself back into faith. My family, is technically Catholic Christian, but we don't really go to church or anything. But my mom suddenly got re-energized by faith. And Bill at the time, this guy was like, oh yeah, I know all about faith. I know all the pastors and the people from the West Coast to the East Coast. Let's go on a tour. And so suddenly I, having a medical condition, was yanked out of school, and I did a tour with my mom and this stranger to all the different pastors from the West Coast to the East Coast. And so there's probably even footage of me online somewhere. The Trinity Broadcasting Network, they used to have those public sermons when the guys would smack you in the head and you'd fall over and the tongues are coming out, and people are, there's got to be footage of me somewhere of, 12-year-old me just getting smacked in the head and waking up in the hotel room the next day. But my mom took me on this incredibly long journey that made no goddamn sense. I should not have graduated into 6th grade. I missed 9 months of school, and I didn't really remember much of that time. But what I did remember was I saw my mom transform. She went from being a woman who was about strong principles and family and love and care to a woman who was being manipulated into someone who loved drinking and alcohol and drugs and didn't entrusted everyone and had no ability to judge or say what she was doing. She was just kind of feeding the machine, if you will. So after 9 months of traveling on the road, meeting minister after minister, I stole her cell phone and I called my dad and I said, I want to come home. And my dad, for some weird reason, didn't piece together that I was with her. He thought that there was caretakers at home because my father was running a business. He was traveling all over the world literally every single week. And so he was like, why aren't you not in school? And so he pieced everything together and said, oh my God, he needs to go home. So my mom comes back from this long trip, and my dad looks at the bank account statements and all of the money and all of the trips and everything, and she'd spent a lot of money, maxed her credit cards, all this stuff. And my dad was like, what happened? What's going on? And my mom said, I don't care. I'm sad in this relationship. I'm getting a divorce. It's over. And my father, now most men in the situation would probably freak out, be upset, and really just like go through a lot of emotional changes. And my father, for some weird reason, didn't. He just kind of like suddenly was playing poker and just was like, I know what I'm doing now and something's not right. And so he assessed everything that was going on, and my mom was talking about divorce, taking all of his hard work and the family and the kids, and all of his kids had saw everything. We had witnessed everything that was going on, and we knew that something wasn't right. And so my father said, you can divorce me and take everything you want as long as you go with me to the doctor. And she was like, oh, that's easy. Let's go to the doctor. That sounds like an easy trip. Well, that trip to the doctor lasted about 3.5 months worth of testing. And she got tested and tested and tested, and no one knew what was wrong with her, but there was something chemically wrong in her brain. They couldn't figure out why she was changing the way that she was. And it took almost 2.5 years from there. I was 14 years old. It was my first day of high school. And we're all getting together. I get called out of class. We go to the doctor's office over in Gardena. And the doctor says, your mom has been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. Now, frontotemporal dementia is basically Alzheimer's, except where Alzheimer's is more at the back of the brain, frontal lobes are more, or the tubes in the front are more the emphasis of this illness. And what we saw was, instead of someone forgetting who she knew or memories or anything, she actually regressed in a way where she forgot things and how to talk and how to communicate and how to be a human being. And so I remember sitting there in the room, and everyone in the room is crying around me, and I'm sitting here going, okay, I know we're all sad, but what's the next step? Because this is going to suck for a long time, and we need to kind of push forward. And so that's when things changed one final time, where I didn't think I was going to go this really big journey. So my mom basically regressed to the state of a child until she passed away. But what was interesting is how the body remembered everything of who she was long after she was gone from her brain. What I mean is this. Every morning at 5 a.m., 14-year-old Gerard with his big brother and his dad would wake up at 5 a.m., bathe my mom, feed her, clothe her, get her ready for her nap. I'd go to school. I'd do my comedy sports and my improv classes and my drama classes, and then I'd come home and I'd finish up what was left off, and then I'd do homework at 11, 12 o'clock midnight, and I did it over and over and over again till I was 18 years old and looking to go to schools. And in the middle of my sophomore year, usually someone who's diagnosed with FTD lasts about 6.5 months, mostly due to malnutrition, just not getting enough food, not eating enough, not being present in the moment and listening and reacting. And so the doctor, she was on life support. She wasn't doing well. They said that she's just not going to make it. And so one day, my dad and I were sitting at home, and he started going through family albums and photos and videos and started archiving kind of how they met and reminisced about all these things they did together and their lives they built. And he popped in an old video cassette of my mom making this lasagna dish, this one that her mother had taught her when she was a kid, and one of her favorite dishes. And she had this particular way of how much cheese and what kind of noodle product and what kind of meat went into it. And my dad just kind of said, this is really stupid, but what if she's still in there somewhere? What if we can prepare this dish and her body will remember what it was like to make it and what it was like to create it, what it was like to eat it and get her out of the hospital? Because she wasn't drinking any Ensures, she was ripping out IVs, she was causing problems for everyone. And so we made this meal, this lasagna, and she instantly ate all of it with her fists, just consumed it as much as she could. And for 18 months from then on, she ate lasagna, breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. We got up early, we'd made lasagna by the bulk, and it was in the fridge, and it was nice and cookie cut clean, and and sometimes if we weren't home, she'd sneak in the fridge and eat it just cold because that's what she wanted. And after that, she got sick of it. And so we said, what do? We need a new dish. And my dad said, well, one of the favorite things she loved was going to a Chinese restaurant, the Szechuan, down the street from her house, and she loved honey glazed walnut shrimp. And that restaurant was still open. So my dad went down there and he bought 10 pounds of honey glazed walnut shrimp, brought it back, plopped it down, and she ate that every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, for another 3 years. And so we were retroactively keeping her alive by using the memories of her body with mind and sense and smell to keep her going for as long as she could. And while this was going on, I saw this transformation. It's creepily something out of The Walking Dead. I saw this woman go from saying, give me that fork, give me that knife, give me that spoon, to give me that gray, give me that blue, give me that silver, to even give me that thing. I want that thing, to thing, to nothing. And this went on my entire high school and college career. And it wasn't until 2013 that she passed away to malnutrition. She wasn't unable to eat, speak, do anything. She was bedridden, and she passed away with her family all around her. But I will say that as sad as this story is, my mom was a strong as hell woman, and she went down fighting every single step of the way. And more importantly, she is the longest lasting survivor to date with someone who's been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. They gave her 6 months. She said, screw you, I'm going to live 15 years. She pushed the boundaries of what science knew and what people knew about this illness. And for me, she wanted one of her kids to be a star. That's what she kept saying. I want my kids to change the world with what they're doing and to become the brightest star they can be, to show them how much happiness that she got from her kids. And ironically enough, I'm that star. I have over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. I run my own production company employing 14 employees worldwide. I get to meet some of the latest and greatest in both film and games. And, I would not be here had I lived such an incredible, crazy journey with her and my family. And, being the youngest of 5 teaches you a lot. And my mom and dad always used to say this phrase, and my dad says this to this day, and he says, one of us, when you're alone by yourself, you're a stick. You can be broken, you can bend, and you can be destroyed. But when all 5 of you kids get together, you're a bundle, and no one can break you and break you down. And that's the philosophy we've ever lived as a family. Until this day, we're all healthy. We're all still doing the best in our industries. And without my mom, I would not be here today, probably on this microphone. So, yeah, that's the story of Karen Khalil. Thank you guys for taking your time. I appreciate it.
That was Gerard Khalil. Gerard is a YouTuber, actor, writer, and performer. You can find him online at JKCompletesIt on Twitter and That One Video Gamer on YouTube. Stay tuned for the next story after this message from our sponsor. If you're looking for more podcasts, try Bite, the podcast from Mother Jones for people who think hard about their food. Join food and farming blogger Tom Philpott, editors Kira Butler and Maddie Oatman, and a tantalizing guest list of writers, farmers, scientists, and chefs as they uncover the surprising stories behind what ends up on your plate. In their first season, they found out what happens when restaurants ditch tipping, learned all about the fraudulent food in your kitchen cabinet, discovered what goes into Nasty Woman Cocktail, and more. CNN called Bite one of the best food podcasts of 2016. Subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. I want to tell you about an app that, crazily enough, is designed to get you to stop looking at your phone and go out into the real world. It's called Detour. Imagine listening to one of your favorite podcast hosts take you on a walk through their favorite neighborhood in the world and telling you all its secrets. That's what a detour is, an immersive audio story that knows where you are. They have 150 different audio walks, from Radiolab to Ken Burns, from a leader of San Francisco's gay rights movement to a Broadway star in New York, and they weave through some of the most fascinating neighborhoods around the world. Plus, when you walk with your friends, you can sync your audio so you all hear the same thing at the same time. Detour is a magical way to explore places with people who know them best. Go to detour.com/story to get your first audio walk free. That's detour.com/story. Welcome back. Our second story this week is from, well, me. It was recorded in December 2016 at Union Hall in Brooklyn. In 5th grade, when we walked in the door every day, the teacher would have written up on the board our schedule. 9 a.m., English. 10 a.m., social studies. 11 a.m., math, and it would just go on, and like that's how we'd know what we were doing for the day, because 5th grade classroom, you do all kinds of different things. And so one Monday, I walk in, and it says 9 a.m., social studies, 10 a.m., social studies, 11 a.m., social studies, noon, lunch, 1 p.m., social studies, 2 p.m., social studies, 3 p.m., go home. And that was the day. And we're all like, oh, something's going to happen. Now, this had happened before. Our 5th grade teacher liked to have us do these big classroom things. And so the whole year was Wild West themed. So they're always Wild West themed. I grew up in Oregon, so actually a lot of years were Wild West themed. But so he would have us do these things. Like earlier in the year, we had played the Oregon Trail, like the video game, but like LARPing. And so like we had groups, and we had to like pick what we were putting in our wagons and try and get across the Oregon territory. And it was great because like I had a team, and like I wasn't the kind of kid who had a team. Like I wore sweatpants to school every day. I didn't have a team, but for that I had a team. It didn't go well. We got stuck in the mountains. It went all Donner Party. It was pretty bad actually, but you know, things like that were great. So when we walked in this day, we knew some kind of big activity was going to happen. And we walk in, and the teacher, Mr. Swanson, goes, all right, here's some cards. And he gave us all 5 cards. And this was Wild West themed. So on each of these cards was something Wild Westy, like a musket, or hardtack, or a fur, you know, like they had in the West. And so we each got dealt 5 of these cards, and he said, all right, here's what we're going to do. This is a trading game. Your objective is to trade to make better value. I don't remember if he said value. Better something for yourself. And so, like, we were supposed to trade, and we were supposed to get points for the cards in our hand. And they had different values. So, like, a musket was worth 5, and a hardtack was worth 2. But you could make sets. So, like, a hardtack was worth 2, but 3 hardtacks was worth 8. Or something. I don't remember the actual numbers, but it was like, all right, so you need to trade with each other and make sets and get points. And this is going to teach us something. And so he was like, all right, there's just a few more rules. He explained the whole rules of the game and then set us out to trade with each other. And we had like 10 minutes to trade and make sets and get points. All right? Now, some of the rules were kind of weird. There was a whole bunch of them, but 3 of them were particularly odd. The first rule was that if you were trading with somebody, you couldn't show them your hand. You had to tell them what you wanted, you had to tell them what you had to offer, and they had to do the same. You couldn't just like look at each other's hands and decide what to trade. And like you can sort of like, as a 5th grader, I couldn't have told you this, but you can sort of see how that makes sense. Like maybe, you know, learning the value of communication or like asymmetric information in interactions, like economists might say something like that. And the second weird rule was that if you started trading with someone, you had to trade. You couldn't walk away from the trade, and you couldn't trade the exact same thing. You like had to make an actual substantive trade. And the economists I've talked to about that tell me that that is all about why would you do that? That doesn't mean anything. What is that? That's what they said. And the third weird rule was that while you were trading with someone, you had to hold hands. I got nothing on that one. But so those were the rules, and we had 10 minutes. We got 5 cards. We had to trade and make the best thing that we could. We did it. And after that, you went up to Mr. Swanson. You showed him your hand. He said, all right, you got this many points. You're supposed to write that up on the board. And we're like, all right. And we sat down at our desks. And he's like, all right, we're going to do that again. So we did it again. Cards, trade, hold hands, not be able to show each other, all of that stuff. 10 minutes, show them points. All right, we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it again. And that is all we did that entire day is we just traded these cards. We got points. And it was sort of Wild West themed. And we're like, what is going on? But all right, fine. You know, we don't have to like do math or read or some of us liked, but some people in the class did. Anyway, we're just like, all right, fine. So we did that. And then we went home. And then we came back the next day. 9 a.m. Social studies. 10 a.m. Social studies. 11 a.m. Whole day. Like, all right, I guess we're going to do that again. So we sit down, and he deals out the deck, and we play a couple hands, and he says, all right, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep doing this all day, but we're just going to make one change. A couple changes, in fact. So the first change is he said, all right, everyone look at the scores on the board and figure out who are the 7 highest scoring kids in the class. Like, all right? So, all right, also figure out who are the 7 lowest scoring kids in the class. And then he says, get into groups. I was in the highest scoring group because obviously I'm brilliant. Or I got good cards. I don't know. It's hard to tell. So we split into groups, and he says, all right, here's what you're going to do. And he had these plastic like conference name tag things where it's like a little plastic thing, and you can stick something you've printed out in it. And he goes up to those of us in the highest scoring group, and he says, here, you're going to wear these. And he gave us these little plastic things, and each of them had a green triangle. And he goes to the middle group, and he says, all right, you guys each get these, and he gave them an orange square. And he goes to the lowest scoring group, and he says, all right, you guys get these, you get a purple circle. He says, what you're going to do is you're going to wear these around school all day while we're playing this game. By the way, we're playing it all week. And we're like, okay, so we put on our little name badges, and we were the green triangles, and there was the orange squares and the purple circles. And we wore these badges. And if some of you are looking at me right now and you're going like, wait a minute, did he just say badges? Is this gonna get really dark? Is this gonna be like some Lord of the Flies shit? Yes. Because the other thing that changed was he said, all right, in between each trading round, for 5 minutes, the green triangles can sit in a circle. It has to be unanimous, but as long as it's unanimous, you can make up any rule you want. Somebody over here just said, oh my God, which is correct. And we're like, all right, we can make up any rule we want. So we sat in the circle, and the first thing we did, very first thing, we repealed all 3 of those stupid rules. Because why would you have those? Those were really dumb. And in retrospect, that's exactly what those rules were there for. They were there so we could remove them to legitimize our regime. The time it took us to go from that, from making an obvious rule that helped the whole class, to making the rule that because we were working so hard for everyone, we deserved an extra card, was just over 24 hours. And we did it. And we kept playing. Came in the next day, when we made that rule, social studies all day. And now people in the class were starting to go, ugh, I don't want to be doing this. And all of us in the Green Triangles were like, yeah. Like I had a team, I had a group, this was awesome. My other Green Triangles really loved it. We came in the next day after we made that new rule, Thursday, 9 a.m., social studies, 10 a.m., social studies. I'm like, yeah, this is fun. All right, we get to do more of this. My friend Mac, who was an Orange Square, was like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm like, why not? It's fun. He's like, no, it's not fun. Lunch that day, on Thursday, we had been playing this game just over and over again. I go out to lunch, and a lot of days, my friend Mac and I, we would play this game during recess called Wall Ball. It's pretty simple. You get a ball, you find a wall, you hit the ball against the wall. It's great. It's a great game. I recommend it. And Mac and I would play this, and so on this Thursday, I found him, and I said, hey, Mac, I checked out the ball. And he's like, no, I don't want to play. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, what are you talking about? Why would I want to play with you? And I'm what? And he's like, what you guys are doing is unfair. That rule is insane. There's other rules I've forgotten. He was upset about. And I'm like, why are you upset? We're making everything better. We're working harder. He's like, no, you're not. And if it sounds like he's being very sharp for a fifth grader, he grew up to be a civil rights lawyer. He was very good. I didn't get it. And we argued, and we left, and I went to find the other Green Triangles, and get back in there in the afternoon. We're back in the class, dealing cards, trading cards. Now, one rule we hadn't repealed was that the Green Triangles, the power group, was the 7 highest scoring people. And there was one of the Orange Squares had been getting enough points that they were going to surpass one of the Green Triangles, because even despite the extra stuff we had passed to make it easier for us, one of them, let's call him Scott, because I don't remember his name, and I kind of hate Scott. Sorry if there's one in the room. He hadn't been doing well. And so we were talking about this. We're like, in a round or two, Scott's going to go down, and it's going to switch. And someone's like, well, we have to pass a rule to make sure that doesn't happen. I was like, wait, what? We have to do what? And someone's like, yeah, we have to stick up for our team. And so someone else says, well, what should we do? And we hadn't changed the rule that it had to be unanimous. So we're all talking about this. And so someone says, we should just give him 100 points. 100 was a lot. We should just give him 100 points. I'm like, all right, we can do that. And it goes around the circle, and everyone's like, yes. It gets to me. And I'm like, that feels wrong. Like I'd been thinking about this thing Max said. Just the whole thing felt wrong. So I said, I don't think we should do that. And they got pissed. They got angry, and they were like, what are you talking about? This isn't wrong. We have to protect our team. And another kid was like, we have to stick together. I was like, it doesn't feel fair. And we were saying this out loud, and we're all in the same classroom as the other kids. So the rest of the class heard what we were talking about doing, and they started getting very pissed off, because they should be. And they started yelling, and they started screaming, and they are coming towards us, and they're standing up, and they're screaming about fairness, and I'm listening to that, and then the other Green Triangles are sitting here, and they're talking about how you to stick up for your team, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know what to do. And the one thing I knew, and I couldn't have put it in these words at the time as a 10-year-old, but I knew that this was important. This decision was important because it would tell me the kind of person that I was. Right? Was I the kind of person that stuck with my team and did the thing for the team? Or was I the kind of person who did what was right and what was fair and what was just? Or on the flip side, was I the kind of person who just wielded power for the sake of wielding it and because that was intoxicating? And I can't come up with a bad thing for the other decision because it's clearly the right one. But this decision mattered and would tell me who I was, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out what to do with everyone yelling at me. Now, over the last couple of years, I have spent a lot of time talking to 2 groups of people. One of them are people who understand stories and narrative. And they have taught me a lot of things like, for example, if you pause just before revealing a crucial bit of information, you can get through a lot of exposition. The other group I've spent a lot of time talking to is neuroscientists. And one of the things neuroscientists tell you that is fascinating is that our memories do not behave the way we think they do. Not even close. They are very, very fragile things. So we think that something happens and you record the memory like it's on a hard drive, and then every time you want to remember it, you just read it off the drive, right? I remember this thing, I remember this thing, I remember this thing. That's not what happens. It turns out when you remember something, you sort of crystallize it, and then, or when it happens, and then when you want to remember it, you pull it out of storage and it becomes this living thing that you think about as you remember it, and then you put it back. And then the next time you remember it, you're not really remembering that thing, you're remembering the last time you remembered it. And then the next time you're remembering the memory of the last time you remembered remembering it. And this keeps happening, and every time you pull it out and then put it back, you can kind of fuck with it. You can kind of twist it. And little imperfections can go in. And so counterintuitively, the more you remember something, the less accurate the memory is. And we can distort the memories that we have by the way we tell it to people, or the things people say to us as we are telling them the story, or by who we want to be. And the other thing that both the neuroscientists and the narrative people tell me is that we tell stories about the things that we did in the past as a way of affirming who we are in the present and who we want to be in the future. We tell stories about ourselves as a way of establishing our own identity and our own sense of our goodness and our place in the world. So there are two endings to this story, and you know what both of them are. I'm going to take you through them briefly. Ending 1. I am sitting there. I don't know what to do. The green triangles are yelling at me about being part of the team. Everyone else is yelling at me about fairness. Finally, I say, no, we can't pass this rule. It's unfair. We have to not do it. I'm not voting yes. And the green triangles go nuts. They start screaming at me. The rest of the class is relieved. Finally, one of us has done something right. There's all kinds of general chaos. And Mr. Swanson, the teacher, steps in and ends the game. And he says, later, as we're all sitting in class, that this has been an exercise in what happens when one group gets unlimited power over another group. As you've all guessed, that was the point. He told us that, in fact, our year was one of the tamest, that sort of the least bad stuff happened that year compared to other years that he had done this. And in later years, I would both be grateful to him for having taught us that lesson and have deep reservations about the ethics of doing that to 5th graders. Like, seriously, what the fuck? Ending 2. I'm sitting there, the green triangles are yelling at me saying, you have to be part of the team. Everyone else is saying, you have to do the thing that's fair. The green triangles saying this, you have to be on our side. I say, yes, you're right, I have to side with the team. We pass the rule, the guy gets 100 points. Everyone else in the room starts going nuts. They start running at us. It looks like they're gonna throw things. Mr. Swanson steps in, ends the game, etc., exactly the same. Now here's the thing about that story. I have told it so many times. I have told it to people to tell them what a great person I am. I have told it to people to tell them what a horrible person I am. I have told it to myself in both ways. I have told it with all kinds of endings. I have no idea which of these is correct. Absolutely none whatsoever. I was right about one thing, though. I thought in that moment that this was important, that this moment would define who I was as a person. And I was correct. What I didn't know is that I would become a person who was obsessed with uncertainty and ambiguity and nuance and how it exists in the world. And what I finally realized Mr. Swanson was teaching us was that absolute power corrupts, not because of evil in the world or inherent badness, but because we all tell ourselves that we are the heroes of the story. And we don't know if that's true. Thank you. That was me. I'm co-founder and chairman of the board of the Story Collider. I'm a high-energy particle physicist who left the ivory tower for the wilds of New York's Theater District. My new event space, Caveat, will open in New York City September 5th, 2017. If you enjoyed today's story or are a fan of the podcast, please consider supporting us on patreon.com. If you sign up to donate $10 a month or more, we'll list your name in our show programs across the country, and for any amount, we'll be incredibly grateful. The Story Collider is also grateful for the support of the Tiffany & Company Foundation and of Science Sandbox, Simon's Foundation initiative dedicated to engaging everyone with the process of science. The Story Collider is produced by me, Liz Neely, Aaron Barker, Ari Daniel, Christine Gentry, Shane Hanlon, Rosie Waldron, Cassie Soliday, and Nissa Greenberg, with help from Farah Ahmad, Ellie Chen, and Skylar Bear. The podcast is produced by Zoe Saunders, and the theme music is by Ghost. Special thanks to Union Hall and the Mint for hosting these shows, and to my teacher for conducting his weird social experiment in 5th grade class and giving me a story to tell and a perspective on life and a political orientation and a lot of sleepless nights and some other stuff. Thanks for listening.
Pulling up to Mickey D's just for drinks? Oh yeah, that's me. Nothing extra, just perfection and a straw. Coming in hot for the coldest cups on the block. Because there are drinks. Then there are drinks from McDonald's.
Ever combine an ice-cold frozen Coke with piping hot fries? Try frozen drinks any size for $1.49. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.